All right, let's talk about the ostrich bias. This is one of my favorite ones, maybe just because we're talking about ostriches and we all know sort of where this is going. All I have to say is the ostrich bias, and you probably have a sense of what it is. You have this picture of an ostrich that's sticking its head in the sand, but if there's a predator around, sticking your head in the sand is not going to protect you from the predator. You have to take some other kind of action in order to protect yourself in that situation. So we don't want to be the ostrich with its head in the sand. So why does this happen and what can we do about it? Let's dive into that in this video. Have 5 points that I've jotted down, as I often do for these cognitive bias videos. The first one is just to acknowledge that why this exists is because we avoid threatening information to protect our emotional comfort. We want to feel comfortable, we want to feel okay, and facing a certain fact at a certain time can be painful, and all of that emotion kind of rushing in is feeling a little overwhelming. Now, there is a time for all of us, and I'm certainly no professional therapist or counselor, and that's not what this video is about. These are all about sort of clear thinking, decision making, truth seeking, that kind of thing. But there is certainly a time when maybe the information is too much for you. Like it's just too heavy of a weight for you to hold. And that's okay to acknowledge that and say, I don't think I'm ready or I'm well positioned for this yet. It's just too raw for me in some way. And then you can come back to it later. In fact, that's even true developmentally. I remember there's a story of a book called The Hiding Place, and you can check it out. But there's one story of this girl in the book. She was a little girl at the time. It's the woman who wrote the book, Corrie ten Boom, and her and her father are getting ready to go on a train and traveling to the city, and the luggage back at that time, this was like World War II era, it was like a chest. And it was sitting there beside the train. They're getting ready to get on the train. And right before they did, Corey brought up something that must have come up in school, and she asked her father about the birds and the bees, and she said it in a more blunt way, and her dad said, "Well, Corey, we'll talk about that when we get on the train. But first, can you please pick up that treasure chest or that luggage and put it on the train, and then we'll get going." And Corey, confidently leans down and goes as a little girl goes to pick up this chest, and it weighs more than she does, and she can't move it. And she says, "Dad, I can't carry this. It's too heavy for me." And he looked over to her and he said, "That's right, Corey. Some things maybe are a little too heavy for you now, but when you're older, you'll be able to carry them. Then we'll have that conversation." So that's actually true. We can do that with ourselves. Sometimes avoiding threatening information that feels a little too overwhelming, maybe that is the right thing for you for a moment, but acknowledge it as opposed to pretend like it's not there. But generally, for many of us, a little bit of threatening information, a little bit of emotional discomfort, there's nothing wrong with that. It can help us build resilience and help us be better problem solvers and decision makers. So be aware of that ostrich bias that happens because we're just trying to escape that initial emotional discomfort. It's almost like stepping into a ice cold shower. It's a shock, and your first reaction is to get out of there, right? And so we do have to get a little bit comfortable with the cold, hard facts sometimes. Second is the bias delays pain, but it actually multiplies it later. And that's one of the tricks, one of the deceptions of the ostrich bias. So this ostrich, literally, there's a predator coming after the ostrich. It sticks its head in the sand to hide from the danger, but then it gets attacked, and now it's far worse off than before. So it doesn't actually work. That's one of the problems of this ostrich bias. Just ignoring the reality of the fact doesn't make it go away. At least most of the time, it doesn't. So it really just delays things for a little bit, and then maybe it's worse later. The third is, I'll just note that this is really common in certain areas of our daily life. It's common in health situations, in matters of finance, in matters of our performance, in work, other things like that. We see some, even in our relationships, but definitely in problem solving and the like. We see something, and that fact is really important to moving forward and to solving the problem and to making the right decision. But it's hard to face that fact. And so we try to pretend like it's not there. It generally doesn't turn out great. finances and health and all sorts of things. All right. The next one then is checking bad news early can allow you time to have that adjustment and that correction. So, in other words, if you want to address the ostrich bias, instead of sticking your head in the sand, have a regular habit of sort of facing some of the bad news in small doses. So you build your resilience over time. You can handle the facts a little bit more. And some of the best decision makers and problem solvers, especially in tense situations, that's what they have to do. They have to train themselves, sometimes slowly. I guess maybe there's a sort of a sink or swim approach as well. I'm not sure about how that all works in certain forms of training. But you can sort of train yourself incrementally to handle a little bit more of the truth. And as you do, you're going to be able to sort of see things. It won't feel as tense for you, and that's helpful. Even when you're trying to discover a truth, and you start to see what the possible solution is, but that solution is a lot of work. It requires more effort, more time, more money, more whatever than what you thought. Well, sometimes we want to be the ostrich then and sort of ignore that. And yet, the longer we ignore it, the more time we're delaying and actually getting to work and doing what's needed to solve that problem or to discover that literal and metaphorical treasure. And then I would say, I guess I already said this fifth one in the way, but these regular truth checks can build some resilience and actually reduce the anxiety that comes with facing the uncomfortable facts when we're trying to make tough decisions and other things. So I hope you find this useful. I look forward to your comments.